Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy adaptation games, and may the odds be ever in your favor. I'm Kels.
And I'm Ash.
And we are the Adaptation Games, a Hunger Games podcast where we break down the Hunger Games films beat by beat and analyze them along with the book to understand themes, characters, and to determine just how good an adaptation these movies are. Join us this week as we talk about tribute scores, the very first Rose Garden scene, and Betrayal. I'm very excited for the Rose Garden scene.
Oh my goodness. I love a deviation from the book.
Yes, very exciting. But how's your week been so far, Ash?
It's been good. We have a certain journey to talk about.
Yes, we do.
The Artemis.
The Artemis 2.
So, full disclosure, we are filming this a week after Splashdown.
Yes.
But yeah, that entire 10 days, I didn't hear about the launch, so I didn't watch the launch live. I only heard about it after the launch when all the clips hit social media. But from that point to Splashdown, I essentially had the live feed running at all times. They were my work buddies and just like general.
Yeah. We started parasocial relationships. With the astronauts. Yeah. Since we were just talking about that.
They were our tributes.
Yeah. But they all came home safe, so that's what we're happy about, you know? Yeah, I was traveling to visit my best friend, and she was taking me on this walk, and it was awesome. It was a prairie dog reservation, and we were walking her dog. And I was like, okay, but hold on, we're about to go dark around the moon, and I really want to listen until we lose contact with them. And so we literally just had my phone pulled up on Netflix, and we were just listening to the live stream as we were walking. And she was like, do you know what they're saying or what they're talking about? And I was like, not really, but that's okay. Twitter will tell me later. It's fine. And it was well worth. And we got new rings, which was super fun, that are kind of moon themed together.
Cute.
In honor. And I'm wearing all my NASA stuff in honor. So if you guys did not watch Artemis 2 stuff, pretty incredible. Check it out. Be excited for when we actually go back to land on the moon, because that's going to be crazy and amazing.
Yeah. It was so fun. I grew up as a kid. There was an amazing astronomy club in our hometown, and we'd go down there every month or every few months, and all these folks would set up these huge telescopes out, and we'd just look at Saturn and Jupiter and all sorts of things. It was so cool, and I kind of forgot about that. And when I entered college, I was like, oh, maybe I'll be an astronomy major. And then I learned how much math was involved, and I went, okay, I won't graduate college if I do that.
Yeah.
So
before my sociology degree, I was a physics major, and because I loved physics, right? And I sat through my astronomy class, and I adored it. I loved it so much. And then I got to calculus class. I made it maybe one day when the math major sitting next to me was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I was like, wait, how did I even end up in this class? So I used to just sit in the study area with my friend who was a physics major, and I'd be like, okay, for your study, just explain to me the theories, because that's all I really care about. Just explain to me what's going on, and that'll be your study. And while I think I was watching X-Men at the time to write my franchise paper. And he was like, I hate you so much.
Here, I have a
and I was
film
worth
major.
it. Yeah, worth it, 100%.
That's so fun. But yeah, it was so nice. It reminded me, well, one, it was just a hopeful event. We got to see people, the most qualified people on the planet, both in the shuttle and outside of it, actually, getting things done and achieving the seemingly impossible. But then it also reminded me just, how much I love space, and it brought out that little child looking up at the stars. So it was just
we're going to Kennedy Space Center together. I've been a couple of times, and it's one of the most incredible things I've ever done. I would go back anytime. So we're going to do it. Maybe we'll go to launch. It'll be awesome.
I would love to see a launch. But yes. Yeah. So
anyways, so yeah, our parasocial relationships this week, Peeta and Katniss have all of the parasocial connections to the capital citizens. It's all interconnected, right?
Yeah. It's just, this is Moonjoy. That is concerning.
Yeah, very, very different. It's okay that we love our astronauts. I mean, they're the only 4 people that have literally ever seen the backside of the moon, so I think it's a little different.
Yeah. Well, there was one other Apollo that went around.
Well, yeah, but this is
they
like
were
the
pretty
furthest.
close to the
they were the
surface.
furthest they had ever
Yeah,
been.
yeah.
But last week's episode, Amanda Stenberg, who we were talking about, love them. Pronouns are they, them. And I knew that, and I just totally forgot what we were talking. So I just wanted to shout that out. I know, sorry. I know we've never said our pronouns. Maybe we should do that.
Oh,
but
yeah. They,
yeah.
them.
She, her.
So, yay.
Yay. But also, last week we got to talk about Rue and betting and how we're building Peeta and Katniss's relationship a little bit differently. Because unlike in the books, the big thing is that all of this is kind of coming organically from them, right? Like people aren't telling them how to have a relationship. Like in the books, it's very much constructed by like Haymitch and Cinna and stuff like that. But here, the reason it feels so different is because it's like Peeta's the one who takes Katniss's hand and holds it in the air, and Katniss is the one who approaches Peeta when they're training and things like that. So it's all coming from them instead of from outside of them, which is, just a different way to build that relationship more quickly, because it's harder when you have somebody who's kind of directing them all the time to really connect with their relationship if it doesn't feel as genuine.
Yeah. It's a hard line that the movie has to walk because, the book has more time to show like how much they have to play into it for the cameras, which we get a lot more of in Catching Fire. But in this, they're just kind of surviving and they're connecting as two people just trying to figure out what situation they're in.
Yeah. And then this week, I know last week I said we're really close to the end of part 1, and we are. But we are not going to get the full 2 chapters in because the end of the next chapter, chapter 9, is the interview. And while it's very short in the book, there is a lot more in the movie. So we're going to do a whole dedicated episode to the interviews next week. But for now, we still have a lot to cover, right? We've got to get the score from Katniss shooting the pig, or shooting the apple, not the pig itself. And then we have like the first Rose Garden scene, which is going to take us a decent amount of time because it deserves a decent amount of time.
Absolutely.
So we will be digging in.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So we cut from Katniss slamming that bow down after she shoots the apple and does her "thank you for your consideration" bow to the game makers. And we cut to Effie freaking out. She is like pacing around. Are you crazy? And Katniss is like, I just got mad. And she's very calm. I think she's kind of at the point of like, whatever. What are they going to do to me? And Cinna, Katniss, and Peeta are all sitting around while Effie is like pacing around behind them. She is very upset about this, saying, you realize that your actions reflect badly on all of us, not just you. Cinna is the one who's kind of trying to calm her down, like, they just want a good show. It's fine, which I kind of like that change to Cinna from the book. And then Haymitch is slowly coming down the stairs, finally joining the rest of the group. And Effie is yelling at him, well, finally, I hope you notice we have a serious situation. And he is also like, no, this is the funniest thing that's ever happened. So he literally gives a thumbs up to Katniss as he's walking by. And Katniss actually smiles at him. Both her and Peeta do, which is great. And he says, nice shooting, sweetheart. So we get a not condescending sweetheart for once, it feels like, from him. And
shocking.
Shocking, truly. He's asking her, he wants to know, like, how did they react? And she's like, well, they look pretty startled. And he's cracking up. He literally falls back into the chair behind him because he's laughing so hard. And then, he's like, what did you say again? And she's like, thanks for your consideration. They're all laughing. And he's saying, genius, genius. And Effie is still incredibly upset and worried that the game makers will decide to punish them. And Haymitch is like, who are they going to take it out on? Like her, him, like, I think they already have. Loosen your corset, have a drink. And so then they kind of settle in. But pretty different from the book, but I love this scene. I think it's so funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the book, so in the book, it really centers around like Katniss immediately understanding the consequences that could come from her actions, particularly not for her. I mean, she's already in the games, but for her sister and her mother. So she's like, oh, they're gonna imprison them, they're gonna kill them, so she has this whole thing. But I like that the movie brings in the fact that Haymitch and the team actually like kind of takes the weight off the moment, because they're like, no, you're fine. Like, the consequences, in order to enact the consequences, they'd have to reveal that you shot at the game makers, and they can't do that.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because in the book, they don't know what happened. Katniss has to tell them, so that's kind of what they change, is like, okay, well, her team essentially knows what happened, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they shared it with the wider public or anything like that.
No, and
but
I
yeah, in
take
the book,
movie,
they have no idea.
No, and I take it from the movie that she told them prior. Like, in the book, it happens after the scores are released, and Katniss is like, oh, okay. But in the movie, I interpret the scene as everyone was like, so how'd that go? And she's like, so
yeah,
I maybe threatened the game makers.
Which I think is
and then that's when Effie goes, what?
Yeah. And it's like, it makes sense, because obviously Effie has been there for the last 25 years of watching Haymitch just fall apart, because that's basically what happened to him and his family. But like, Haymitch doesn't care, because, as we'll get into in the book, he's kind of like, what are they going to do? Like, it would be too much trouble to reveal it, and then like it's so far in, you're about to get the scores and things like that. Like, they would have to replace you. It would be a whole issue. Like, they're not going to do anything now, because all they can do is like do something in the games. And like, you're already going into the games, so like, who cares?
Yeah, and like,
I think matches their tone.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like, Haymitch has pushed the buttons before, and a brief little touch on Sunrise of the Reaping, not spoilers, but like, the things that happen in those games are why Haymitch understands where the line is.
Yeah.
And so he's like, no, this is fine.
Yeah, we'll have to do a whole separate episode, I'm thinking, probably at the end of this book, about why does it work with Katniss when it didn't work 25 years ago, the things that they were doing, or 24 years ago. Sorry, we're only in the 74th gamers right now. But the idea that the propaganda was so strong back then, and it's so strong back then that it essentially breeds Effie and Seneca Crane.
Oh yeah.
So to the point where now they can get away with a lot more, because these people like buy it, right? Whereas previously, the only time they actually punish Haymitch is when publicly he's able to rebel, because every other time they're able to cover it up. So, like, with Katniss, it's like, okay, well, it's still hidden, right? So what are we gonna do? Like, there's not much we can do about it. And as Haymitch says in the book, he's like, people already know who your sister is, right? That's a big difference. Like, the people in the Capitol are already loving Prim, because Katniss volunteered for her and didn't just,
she's
like,
an integral part of the story that the Hunger Games are like, or sorry, that the game makers are weaving.
Yes.
Which we'll get to the Rose Garden scene when they're like, like, maybe you should stop doing that.
Yeah.
But so
yeah,
she's okay.
I will say that I love the line in the book, though, where Katniss is like so upset. She's been crying about this. She hasn't told anybody what's happened. She sits down and she's eating fish soup at the table, and everybody's like, oh my God, what happened? And she's just like, I'm just eating this soup. The saltiness reminds me of my tears. She's so
a swift reminder that Katniss is 17.
I know. 16, I think. She's only 16 in
16,
this, right?
Okay,
she's 17 in the 75th.
Yeah, that's the most teenage. I think that's probably in my diary somewhere.
Saltiness reminds me of my tears. Probably. You know what? You're right. We probably all wrote that down somewhere.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I was also listening to Evanescence for fun.
There's so much reels. I literally have been listening to MCR again recently, and Angela and I have been like, my roommate and I have been like, what? Who let us listen to this? Like, who let us listen to some of the music we listened to when we were kids? Because it was, no wonder.
Yeah, I feel like I
radicalized.
shouldn't have been belting out like Lithium,
Yeah, right. But anyways, I love that in the movie, Cinna is also like really supportive comparatively, because in the book he is also like, okay, what? Like, what do you mean? And what did they say? Like, what did they do? And they're all like shook that she's like, I don't know, I just left. And Fia's like, you just left? What do you mean?
It's like, that's so rude. Yeah, I like the movie portrayal of Cinna more because it fits like he is actively rebelling in his own way, like with Katniss's outfits. So it kind of helps build that like he's okay with pushing the boundary in the movie. I think in the book it also works because it's a little like he doesn't. The way that the dress works in the interview is not actual fire. Like it's not a tie back to the actual, the fire capes from the tribute parade. In the book, it's a jeweled dress that like the jewels look like sparkly flames,
Right.
So it's like he's building into the rebellion a little, like he's getting there and he's rebelling in his own way. But in the movie, they're like, okay, we need to build this because he's an integral part of catching fire.
Yeah, and considering I'm gonna have to check how much screen time does Lenny Kravitz end up having for the impact that he has.
Very little,
because he gets more scenes in this than he will in Catching Fire. And in Catching Fire, obviously that is a huge thing when he makes the wedding dress turn into the Mockingjay dress. So like that is, like that. It's important to build upon all of that now and like really love Cinna now. Because then in Catching Fire, when we get there, it's going to be like, oh my God, like the one pillar, right? Because that's what we've been establishing is it's like, this is the one person she's really been vulnerable around since she got here. And suddenly we're going to rip him away in the worst way possible in Catching Fire. So yeah, I think it's great that they changed that. And then in the book, also, I love that Katniss is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Peeta and Haymitch cheered me up. I didn't know they could do that. Mostly because they've been saying like, don't worry, they're not going to punish your family because again, they just like, it's too much time and effort for something that isn't going to have the impact that they want it to have. So yeah, and we're about to find out. Well, we're going to go through the scores first, but then we're going to find out in the Rose Garden scene exactly how Snow feels about that. So
spaghetti-o.
Spaghetti-o. So the way that we get the scores here, in the book, Katniss is basically just like thinking about how all the scoring works. It's 1 through 12, yada yada. So the way that they're going to do that in the film, because Caesar, in the book, does not announce the scores. They just like release the scores some other way. But they all sit down. They're still there basically after they have this conversation and they watch the broadcast all together as Caesar Flickerman explains and announces the score. So he's way more involved, I realized, than he was in the books. Because they really needed a face of all of their propaganda from beginning to end instead of just at the interviews, which is really what he does in the book.
And then, in a movie, in a visual setting, just putting a bunch of scores on a screen and just being like, boop, there we go, ta-da. Anticlimactic, I would say. Pacing, negative. So it is nice to have like run through each tribute. You have a guy like doing, jazz hands as each score is announced.
And Portia is sitting with Peeta and Cinna's sitting with Katniss as the other important thing that we're going to get here is all of the names of the important tributes. Because again, we've been talking about names the last several episodes. Katniss will not learn any of these names in the book. So like Marvel, we get his name. Katniss will not learn his name until the Victory Tour in Catching Fire. And she's like, because when she kills him after Rue, she's like, I can't believe I just killed somebody. I don't even know his name. I have no idea what his name is. So she doesn't learn it until much later. In Catching Fire, she's saying, I personally killed the girl, Glimmer, and the boy from District 1. As I try to avoid looking at his family, I learned that his name was Marvel. How did I never know that? I suppose that before the games, I didn't pay attention, and afterwards, I didn't want to know. So, again, just like a very significant thematic thing that happens for her constantly. And yeah, like Rue's name before in the book had been from Peeta, but we get it from the Capitol on the betting board in the movie. So it's just, very, very interesting changes. And then like Seneca Crane, we're going to get his name from Snow because Snow is like really annoyed with him. And we'll do like a whole episode about names and the meanings behind it because his Seneca Crane is like I think it's like Greek tragedy or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a whole story behind his name. Same with Coriolanus Snow. A lot of the capital names have like very tragic stories behind them. And then the Covey names later on are going to be like super important. So we'll talk about it.
I'm excited.
And then, so we get Marvel. He has a score of 9. Cato gets a score of 10. Clove, 10. We see a look of District 4, the other 12-year-old, but we don't see his score. We get District 5. We don't get a name for her. We never get a name for her in the books either. She's just known as Foxface. She gets a score of 5. We see Thresh without a district or name. They just like have his picture up there. He gets a score of 9. I've never understood this. He gets a score of 10 in the books, so I don't understand the downgrade. I don't know if it's just because they're trying to make Clove and Cato seem like more dangerous, so they give them a 10. And then Rue gets a score of 7, which shocks everybody in the book and in the film. And this is like just a very significant way for all of them to get named. Because again, like Katniss is not going to learn Cato's name until he is trying to kill her when she's stuck in the tree. So that's like page like 180 or something like that so it's pretty deep into the book. And then by page 215, we still don't have Marvel or Clove's name. We only get Clove's name when Peeta is in the cave with her because he was with the career pack, so he like knows her name. And he says like Clove is still out there. She's really dangerous. And she's like, oh, is that her name? Cool. Good to know. I wouldn't have cared. And then Glimmer's name we're going to get during the interviews because Caesar will say it out loud as well. So again, it's just like names are so important for how we're going to get them throughout the series, both from basically every name we have gotten that is important, we have gotten from the Capitol. So, right, we got Haymitch's name from Effie. We got Katniss's name from Effie. We got Peeta's name from Effie. We got Prim's name. We got Prim's nickname from Katniss, and Gale's, not his full name, from Katniss. But then we get Primrose Everdeen, her full government name, from Effie. But you know who doesn't get named? Effie Trinket. I think I knew this fact once upon a time, but she is not named in the first movie at all because Katniss doesn't care to name her. She's like, I don't really care what your name is.
That's crazy.
Because she is in a lot of movies.
I mean, it can't like. It's such an interesting choice from a audience perspective too, because in the book obviously we get Effie's name, but in the movie, if someone hasn't read the book and then they watch the movie, they'll leave without knowing Effie's name.
Yeah. And unless they stay for the credits, and then it's in the credits, but that's about it.
And then they also learn, wait, that was Elizabeth Banks? Like,
right, exactly.
It's such an interesting script choice. Or maybe it's not even a choice, it's how it is. But yeah, it's just such an interesting like miss for such a fun, and I guess integral character to the beginning of the film, but not necessarily the rest.
Yeah, and I think it is because, right, like the only time we get Gale and Prim's names from Katniss is like when we are invading as a viewer onto private moments that we should not have access to, right? So like when would Katniss tell us her name, and like Haymitch clearly doesn't want to call her by her name because he just like hates everything about the Capitol. So I think it's like it works as a thematic point, but it's just so interesting to me that they just don't do it. You would think that somebody in the background or Cinna could call her Effie or something like that, but it just never happens. And I just thought it was really interesting. But anyways, yeah. So that's all the scores. See how much we could talk about for what is probably like 30 seconds in the movie. We get all the scores for all the other tributes, but then we're gonna get our District 12 scores. But do you have any thoughts first on the names and anything else before we go in? Because I know I just rambled for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I never noticed the names because I went into these movies having read the books, or as many books were out at that time. So yeah, I just never noticed, and I never noticed how much Katniss holds names and doesn't give information. I kind of just noticed that she just doesn't give information at all. But yeah, it is interesting that she like very much does not release specifically names to either the viewer or the people around her.
Yeah, and then she doesn't want to learn them for people that she might have to kill because she just has to stay disconnected as much as possible from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then we're going to finally get the District 12 scores. Haymitch is like slumped down. He's drinking alcohol again. Everyone else is kind of like sitting up really locked in. And Peeta Malark is first. Katniss is watching him as he leans forward to see his score, and he gets a score of 8. Everyone is celebrating. He looks relieved as he slumps back, and Effie is saying, "We can work with that." Like, she's so proud of him. And then
I
we
need
go,
Effie's can-do attitude in my life.
right?
I
I'm so
also
excited
admire
to
her.
see Elle Fanning, right? That's who
Oh,
is playing
yeah.
her in Sunrise on the Reading. I'm so excited to see her interpretation too, because even a younger Effie that is really like, we got to do the thing. Can't wait.
Oh my
Can't
god,
wait.
it's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah. And then we get Katniss Everdeen with a score of 11. And Katniss was literally curled up on the couch, hugging her knees, looks up in shock. Effie stands up. Peeta is saying, like, congratulations, but you can tell he's like, he doesn't know how he feels. Maybe overshadowed. He's not looking, is he looking at her as a threat? He's certainly stunned by her score. And she's saying, I thought they hated me. Um, and Cinna stands up as well and does give us our first to Katniss Everdeen, the girl on fire. So I guess it does not first come from Caesar like we thought it did. But I think it's an interesting shot where the 3 capital citizens, Portia, Effie, and Cinna, are all standing up celebrating this. Haymitch will stand up to cheers with them, and then he will sit back down with his district members. So a little bit separate there. And Peeta is giving Katniss a bit of an ambiguous look here. We're not sure how he feels about Katniss outshining him so much.
Yeah, it's so yeah, I mean, I don't even know if Peeta knows where he is. I couldn't really kind of figure out where he is in this moment. I mean, Katniss just always seems to have it, but I think you know, all the district folks are realizing like, oh, this means there's a target. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a target on Katniss's back now.
Yeah, because in the books, she's thinking when she's giving the explanation of how the scores work, she's saying that people who score high tend to go down first.
Yeah.
So I think that there were thoughts about maybe they gave her an 11 to target her back. I kind of like how they're going to change that here in the Rose Garden scene in a minute, but um, I think it's interesting. Haymitch is the one in the books who's saying like they just want to put on a show, so of course they're going to give you an 11 because they want it to be entertaining.
Yeah, there's been so much buildup of like, the girl that volunteered for her sister and oh, maybe she'll win. And then they're like, oh, an 11. Like there's so much build on the story side of the game makers for this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Where do you see Peeta in this moment?
I think he is a little bit like, oh, I actually did well for once, like, because
Yeah.
we've just recently had the conversation about what his mom was thinking, and how that must have hurt him really bad. But like, he also has accepted it to some degree, but he's also 16, like, how would you feel? You're not fully accepting your death. As much as you tell yourself you're fully accepting your death, you're a kid. It's not like you want to die.
Yeah.
But he is both impressed by Katniss because he's always a little impressed by Katniss, and he's a little bit like, oh, okay, this is the final nail in the coffin, right? Because this is the moment that after this he's gonna not want to train with her. Both because he is trying to continue to try and raise her up, so he's gonna work with Haymitch one-on-one, but also because he is a little bit like, okay, I can't be in the same circle as her anymore because now it's just gonna hurt
No.
him more. To have to let her go, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like from this point on, like the games are truly on because all we have left is the interview and then it's the arena. There's no training left.
Yeah.
There's no nothing left. So these scores are kind of like the last like quiet moment, I would say, like personal moment where they're not on camera, because we'll have the interview, then we'll have a brief moment under the stadium, but we're in it.
Yeah, and Katniss says in the book, like we've Peeta and I congratulate each other. Another awkward moment. We've both done well, but what does that mean for the other? And it's like, yeah, because it's hard when the movie has been kind of building their relationship, right? But then it has to come back in this moment and be like, but don't forget, they're not on a team. They have to kill each other.
Yes.
It really wants to remind you of that in this moment. So that's kind of why it's framing it in this way as well. I mean, the book pretty much frames it in the same way too, but they need to be like, oh yeah, we've been making you love them together, except don't forget one of them is going to have to kill the other, potentially.
Yeah, only one's walking out.
Only one is
and
walking
only one's
out.
the protagonist of this book. So.
Exactly. So we all know Peeta's going to die. That's like the assumption
Yeah.
you have to make in this moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's great acting from both of them too, to really be like, who knows? Who knows how they're thinking and feeling? Because we really shouldn't. They don't know what they're thinking and feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, oh my goodness, finally, we're getting to the President Snow first Rose Garden scene. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this for forever. But before we dive in, what I want to read is, I'm not going to read the whole letter that Donald Sutherland wrote to Gary Ross, which inspired these scenes, because it is like 2.5 pages and that would take us a very long time. So what we're going to do is we're probably just going to do a separate episode. We'll go through the letter, and maybe we'll do a little bit of a history on Donald Sutherland, because he was a really interesting guy and he is sorely missed in Hollywood today. But what I'll read you is just, it was a quote from an interview with GQ when they were talking about this letter. And he says, "Nobody asked me to do it. I wasn't offered it. I liked to read scripts, and it captured my passion. I wrote them a letter. The role of the president had maybe a line in the script, maybe two. Didn't make any difference. I thought it was an incredibly important film, and I wanted to be part of it. I thought it could wake up an electorate that had been dormant since the 70s. I hadn't read the books. To be truthful, I was unaware of them. But they showed my letter to the director, Gary Ross, and he thought it'd be a good idea if I did it. He wrote those wonderfully poetic scenes in the Rose Garden, and they formed the mind and wit of Coriolanus Snow." And Gary Ross, if you watch the behind the scenes, you can watch Donald Sutherland read this letter, and then Gary Ross responds saying, like, that's the relationship you want from an actor and director, where it's a give and take, right? It's collaborative. It's one person offering something, the other person takes it and extrapolates it, and that's the way filmmaking works best. So basically the main thing about the letter is Snow says, her, Katniss, interior dialogue and monologue defines Snow. And so all of these scenes are, how do we externalize all of how Katniss is defining Snow throughout all the books. And I just think it's awesome how much passion he had about this character, and how much he was like, it's very important to portray this, not just because like he thought the character was interesting, but because he thought it was important to educate people about this kind of thing.
Yeah, how he can like, I know this is just like an actor thing and a director thing, and just like where I work on movies thing, but just extrapolating so much from a script that is a distillation of a book, and the script clearly was not in its final form either, and being able to see like, oh, like I understand not only the beats of the story but the impact of it, and I know who will be watching it, and I know how this character needs to work in this story in order for it to have like real life, real world impact. Is just really cool. Like I haven't watched the behind the scenes. I haven't read the letter. So I'm very excited for,
I know we're gonna do a whole reaction
to cover that. But yeah, it's such a beautiful, like, I feel like so much, especially today in Hollywood, it feels very like there's not that dialogue in between creatives and decisions that actually make it to the movie sometimes. So it is just beautiful to see like a well-seasoned actor who's able to take a script and understand it on a level, so deep that it changes because that actor knows what's missing.
Yeah. And he was very
That's very
politically
cool.
active, even when he was a very prolific actor. So like he was saying, the 70s were a big thing for him, right? And he went to a lot of protests. I'm pretty sure he was arrested at several protests and things like that. So for him to be like, it's important, I think really just shows the true impact that stories can have, right? I'm a big believer, this is why I studied sociology to begin with, in that film and TV and like pop culture are really your social education, right? Like this is where you're going to get a lot of stuff that you're not just going to learn when you're in a classroom. And so I just thought it was, he's missed. I miss him. Wish he was still here. But yeah, he really defined it for everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so cool. Suzanne Collins wrote these books with this inspiration, and to see it just multiply with every creative that's touched it, or, and the audience that's taken it, um, and just multiplied the message and really carried it forward and, extrapolated on it, as you were saying. And Donald Sutherland is one of many, many examples, but a very, I would say, one of the most impactful examples of it.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to actually get into the scene that he helped inspire. So we open with Snow, and his opening line is, "An 11?" He's pruning a rose as he says this. Seneca is standing, Snow is sitting in his rose garden, and he seems so confused. He's like, "She earned it." And Snow is not happy with this. He's like, "She shot an arrow at your head." And he sounds so pissed as you see like rose petals falling at his feet. He's aggressively pruning this thing. And Seneca's like, "Well, add an apple." And Snow responds, "Near your head. Sit down." So clearly in order. He's used to being listened to. Seneca comes over. You can tell he's probably a little bit afraid of him. And Seneca, why do you think we have a winner? Wes Bentley is great in these scenes. He really does look so confused. Like, he is like, "What do you mean?" Like, because the Hunger Games are awesome and like a whole thing and like really brings the country together. And you're like, no, but he has bought into the propaganda that Snow has been selling him his whole life, right? So he's just really confused by this interaction. But Snow says, "I mean, why do we have a winner? If we just wanted to intimidate the districts, why not round up 24 of them at random and execute them all at once? Be a lot faster." Seneca doesn't even answer because he has no idea what to think. And Snow says, "Hope." And they're like kind of going back and forth. And he says, "Hope is the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. A spark is fine as long as it's contained." And Seneca says, "So," like he doesn't know, like, "What do you want me to do about it?" And he says, "So contain it." And that's the end of the scene. But it is, what a great interaction between the two of them to really change the meaning of the score for Katniss.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, this explicitly states that Snow is now after Katniss because he understands what she can represent if this continues. I mean, it already has gone too far in a way. But yeah, he's like, "Uh-oh." But I think this is also such a funny, like, in the context of Ballad and Songbirds and Snakes, a funny flaw to Snow's system of like, we have to build these narratives and, the people just get obsessed with these narratives. And he's made, the game makers that followed him follow Snow's playbook and make these incredible games with these incredible storylines and like really draw people in, and don't see the wider consequence of that because that's not their job. Their job is to make an amusing TV show. And Snow's like, "Why aren't you seeing the bigger like the fact that Snow's so doesn't like beats around the bush a lot kind of with it." He doesn't explicitly state like, "Kill Katniss."
Yeah, not until we get into Catching Fire, and then he's saying those things to Plutarch, and Plutarch is going to use that against him aggressively.
Yes. Absolutely. But yeah, I love this scene so much. Seneca, fully confused. We've all been there.
When your boss is telling you to do something and you're like, "Wait, hold on. I was doing something entirely different than what you're talking about. We're on 2 different pages, but I can't let my boss know that because I don't want to lose my job." Like, Seneca's not even realizing, oh, maybe at the end of the day, Snow's going to kill me for this because, again, he doesn't believe any of that. He's just like, yeah, we're like, everything's good. He's a president, right? Like, he's been nominated or elected, probably. And like all this other stuff.
Like, Seneca knows the consequences of not putting on a good show, which is death. Like, I'm sure many game makers have died in front of him from strange, mysterious poisonings. Like, I think he understands the gravity of, like, if he doesn't do well, he might not make it out. But he is thinking, if I don't do well, as in it's not an interesting games, and like the people start looking too intensely. He's not thinking, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't like accidentally make like a martyr."
Right, exactly. Because like to him, he's like, well, yeah, this is good games. This is good storytelling. Is like, Katniss is really interesting, and we also know from Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, specifically picking a girl from 12 is going to trigger every single one of Snow's instincts to hate her, right? To hate her
Also,
more than
Seneca doesn't
anybody
think
else.
that Katniss is gonna win. Like the 11 is like, oh yeah, like she earned it, like whatever. But no one from District 12 has won since Haymitch. Like
Right.
they're not like, oh yeah, well she's definitely gonna win. They're like, no, she's gonna die. Like the careers will
Right.
take her out. But
Yeah. The other thing that this scene is doing that really the movies are doing that the books don't do at all is it's really setting up what are the Hunger Games versus how are the Hunger Games perceived? Because that's two very different things, right? And that is made so clear here by Snow. I think this is the first time he's really realizing, like, dang it, these kids bought it. Like, these kids buy it so much that they don't understand that we are playing the games as well, in a way, by like,
yeah.
we have to oppress the rest of the districts. Otherwise, we're just going to end up back in the arena with them. Like, we are the victor. I am the victor. So we need to treat it that way. And he's now realizing, oh, none of them believe that. They just think it's fun, like it's play. Because we're coming off of a scene where it's like there was a lot of celebration from getting the score, right? It's a contest. Katniss is the clear favorite, not as something like he's not seeing it as, oh, we're meant to control the population through fear. Because he does also ask Seneca, he's like, have you been out to those districts? Or is this in this scene? It might be in a different Rose Garden scene, when they talk about the underdogs. But you know, he's like, have you ever been out to the districts? And Seneca's like, well, no. Like, he doesn't know what it's like out there, right? Like, he doesn't know how bad the oppression is. He really is buying into all of this. So, um, it's not, to him, it's not an elaborate execution, but to Snow, it is an elaborate execution. So,
Yeah, Snow's still in the Hunger Games. Like, and I mean, like Snow's still in the war, really, like between the districts and the capital. He's
yeah.
still, he's still a peacekeeper down, down to his bones. Whereas
Yeah.
the people that he's put in charge of the games and the people that are running sort of the capital, other than what he's running, they, they're like, oh, the districts are like suppressed. Like we've figured out how they rebel. We've ended that. We've cut them off from the woods. There's nothing there. Like they're pacified. So let's go have our fun little TV show.
And the other thing too is that Seneca is clearly too young to have lived through the war, right? So Snow still vividly remembers what it's like to be hungry. When him and oh my gosh, her name Tigress, when him and Tigress are starving as well. Like, he knows what that is like. And so, and you're right, it's at the forefront of his mind at all times. So that's why in Catching Fire, when he actually talks to Katniss, that is the first major point he makes is like, do you want to have a real war? You think it's bad now? You think what I'm putting you through is bad? Do you want to go to war? And Katniss is like, no, I don't want that, because you're right, that's probably worse. But like that's always what he's thinking about with everything. Absolutely. All of the time.
Yeah, it's such a good scene because it also sets up, we've seen the President Snow at the victory parade, and he just says some things and sits back down, and Katniss and him lock eyes or notice each other. But in this, we get explicit. We pull out of Katniss, we pull out of all this Hunger Games shenanigans, and we just pull straight to President Snow in this scene where he's talking to a subordinate, but this is Snow, as clear as we'll see him, except for when he's talking with Katniss. We get to see truly, like, without any facade, the dark side of the Capitol. We've seen the parity between the districts and the Capitol. We've seen how the Capitol, discusses the tributes and like and dehumanizes them. We've seen like little kid run around and play swords and like pretend kill his sister, because they're like playing the Hunger Games. But this is where we get the explicit. This is why this system is in place. This system is in place because the Capitol needs the districts. Otherwise, everything dissolves. There's war, everything's gone. And these people are, covering themselves in jewels and crazy hair and crazy costumes. And it's all propped up by the system by Snow. Like, Snow is very much the person that we have established that's running it.
Right.
And I love too, like, how the scene set up how delicate Snow is, particularly in his interactions with the roses.
Right.
He's very, very precise with his cuts. You know, he's very particular. Like, you can see that this is a garden he spent some time on.
Right. Yeah, and he has no armor on. I think now I'm trying to remember. He has like a bathrobe on in the scene. Like, he's not
I
in a
thought he has a
suit.
suit. Oh, he's not in a suit.
I don't.
Okay. Every time he wears white, I'm just like, oh yeah, he's in a suit.
No, because he's wearing like a little. Hold on. So this is the one that we're talking about. Is him in this purpley thing?
Oh.
Right. So
Yeah,
he is
okay.
like. He's sitting. He's not even sitting straight. His like legs are. Like, this is him at his most vulnerable that we're gonna see him, because I do think most of the rest of the time we're gonna get him in like a suit and stuff like that.
I love a little President Snow just chilling in his rose garden with his,
Right.
his flowers in his bathrobe. Like, isn't that what we all aspire to do?
Exactly. And haven't we been saying that's what we want? Be more like Snow? We said that the other week.
I think we're extrapolating the wrong thing from this podcast. I think we actually got to shut it down.
Again,
Good try.
Let me clarify. Be more like Donald Sutherland. Don't be more like Snow. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting that he is at his most vulnerable, it seems, here in this moment in the Rose Garden scene, but he also is exuding so much power over Seneca without having to do anything, right?
Yeah, it's a nice contrast to it's a nice contrast to the the tribute parade, where he's in his suit, he's fancy, he's on this huge, like, the scale of the Capitol is kind of crazy. Like, he's up like 50 stories on this pedestal. But here he's just, we get a camera right to him. He's sitting in his bathrobe, hanging out, you know, on his little rocking chair. No.
And he's like, why do you think we execute 23 people a year and then send one home so traumatized they could never do anything ever again?
And don't worry, we keep using them for the rest of their lives. So.
Oh yeah, they never get to exit.
Nope.
No. So yeah, much just from this one scene added because Donald Sutherland read the script randomly and liked it so much that we now have the Snow that we know.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this portrayal also affected Ballad. I'm sure Suzanne Collins had a lot of this already mapped out, but just seeing how the power that Donald Sutherland's able to put in this character. Like, President Snow's scary.
Yeah.
He's scary.
He's one of those terrifying antagonists, I think, in anything I've watched, like, especially of this type of genre. Right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like, I would say, like, akin, not fully very adjacent to, but, you know, I mean, one of the other ones was, like, David Tennant and Jessica Jones. Like,
oh, yeah.
Some people are able to just put so much like power in their character in a way that, you know, as the villain is so scary.
Yeah. And it's like, because they don't have to do anything, right? And we've been talking about this with the Capitol citizens. They're all peacocking. The game makers are peacocking when they sit in their little bright pink clubhouse while all these kids are training to die, because they are pretending to have power. They think they have power, but they don't know what real power is. Like, Snow has the real power at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at Seneca, who has this glitter beard, amazing glitter beard. I'm honestly
amazing.
A little bit jealous of it. It's so fun. But then we get Snow, you know, minimal makeup, just enough to be like look good on camera. Hair, very, I mean, I would say standard for like a retiree. A beard that's pretty full. You know, he's not like covered in gold or glitter or crazy colors. He's just like a guy, and he's the scariest one in the whole scene.
Yeah. Love it. So good. And I think it was the better choice for what it replaces in the book, because it's still good. It's good stuff for Katniss that we don't necessarily need in the movie because we're already pretty connected to her. But in the book, what this is replacing is she is giving us the whole history of how her and Gale met, and like walking through how did they meet when she was scared and hunting for the first time. She sees his snare, how they like don't really trust each other at first, but how they eventually become partners. His father died in the same mining accident that her father died in. And so essentially a bunch of that. She's just talking about how Gale gave me a sense of security I'd lacked since my father died. And it's important for Katniss, I think, but I think we already kind of got a lot of that, even in the only like 3 to 5 minutes we got with her and Liam Hemsworth in the beginning. Like we already kind of know what their relationship is like, without needing all of this history there.
Yeah. I think the function of this, particularly in the book, is to show, not that the whole book hasn't already shown this, but Katniss is extremely slow to trust. And back then, so much slower. Like, Gale has been an incredibly important figure in her life because she has started to ease up and does trust people. Like, she trusts Gale. Like, he's shown that he's a steady partner, like a steady hunting partner. He will be there, and he's really good at these things. So we're getting that scene right before literally betrayal.
Yeah, because it's
so
especially important. Go ahead.
It's a parallel to her and Peeta's relationship at this point where, like, her and Gale are now, like, set. Like, they are, partners. They're in this. Peeta and her are just on the cusp of something. There's been little sparks here and there, sparks here and there. They're just at the cusp, and Peeta's going to pull back. And that's ultimately a betrayal, and a total reversal of Gale, at least in Katniss's mind.
Yeah, because she's talking in the books about how I became a much better hunter when I didn't have to look over my shoulder constantly when someone was watching my back. Being out in the woods with Gale, sometimes I was actually happy. Like, she's talking about how much more security there is in having somebody she can trust and how much she does like that. But then, she's comparing Peeta to Gale. I can't help comparing what I have with Gale to what I'm pretending to have with Peeta, how I never question Gale's motives, while I do nothing but doubt the latter's. It's not a fair comparison, really. Gale and I were thrown together by a mutual need to survive. Peeta and I know the other's survival means our own death. How do you sidestep that? And because that is the real question, and it hurts even more in the movie because they've been organically building all that. Like what she was saying here is, I'm pretending to have this with Peeta, but you can clearly see in the movie that she really is starting to trust him a little bit, despite her best efforts to not look at him, to not address the elephant in the room, to not do all of this stuff. It really is going to make it sting so much more. And just another reminder of, like, they're not a team, unfortunately. Like, do we wish they could be a team? Yeah, and she wishes they could be a team, even though she's trying so hard not to.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is, in her mind, they're becoming a team. They're just on the cusp, or they're just potentially forming, like, oh, maybe, like, this is a thing we can do together. And then, reminder, this is the Hunger Games. Only one person leaves. And if it's just you two remaining, one's got to kill the other.
Yeah. Which is, how do you sidestep that? So
you don't.
You don't.
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
I mean, so, like, in the book, we spoke briefly on, like, the training where Peeta and Katniss are the only one wearing matching outfits, and that's specifically a choice by their team. Like, they've been forced together as a team.
Yeah, and they're being told to, like, stand together. Even after Katniss was like, oh, I hate him and I hate myself. And then Cinna and Haymitch are like, don't forget to act like a team, though, when you go in there. And she's like, why? I don't want to do that.
Please. Yeah. Let me just be normal.
Yeah, let me just be by myself, because emotionally, like, and that's really the whole thing. I know we laugh at Katniss a lot. She can't connect to her emotions because she's so traumatized, and she's suffering just horribly constantly from probably complex PTSD. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say, but and she will continue, especially in the next film and book in Catching Fire. It gets worse after she gets out of the games, right? But she's already experiencing it all the time, so she just can't access her emotions. And she's like, so stop trying to make me because I can't go there. I don't know how. It's like a danger to me, essentially, to do that. So it would take years. It would take the amount of time I had with Gale. And we don't have that kind of time. We have like one more day until we go into the games, you know?
Yeah, like you can't act irrationally in the games when this person that you've grown, some sort of partnership with or friendship with dies, because that's going to happen. Especially from District 12, everyone's like, oh, okay, well, you're both going to die. The minute you act irrationally is the minute that you also die. So
yeah, and this is why Haymitch isn't encouraging her to necessarily go make alliances in the arena, right? Because she could. She offers a lot. She could probably build a huge alliance, partially probably because of the trauma that Haymitch suffered with alliances. We don't need to talk about it, but
we'll get into it one day.
We'll get into it one day. But the idea that like, because he knows, man, if she has an ally, that's it. She's not going to win. Right, because
I mean, she volunteered to protect her sister. Like this is a person who will put their life on the line for someone that they love. You can't have that in the games and win.
Yeah, and that's what happens with Rue. Like, she is allies with Rue, and she's like, well, that's it. And if she made it to the end and it was her and Rue for some reason, she would have just ended it herself. Like, there's no way she could have taken on Rue. Yeah, bye. I hope you have a great life, Rue.
Yeah.
Which you won't, but like I hope you do. Like there's no way, right? Because my favorite line in the whole book is if when her and Peter are facing off together and he's trying to end his own life by like removing his like stitching or like whatever they have on his leg, and he's like, you have to let me die and you have to go home. And she's like, no, because if he dies here, I will never leave this arena. I will be stuck here for the rest of my life, trying to think my way out of the situation. If he dies here, that's it. That's the end for me. There is no more Katniss after this. And so that's why she doesn't form an alliance, even though she could, right? She could easily find allies here. But Haymitch is not going to encourage that from her because he knows what that takes to have to like then betray an ally at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But so we cut all that out about Gale, but we cut from the Rose Garden scene to an image of a fish head on a completely stripped bone, already eaten, blue eyes, blue plating, lots of blue, lots of capital color. We're going to talk so much about color theory, but I'm going to save that for next week because we're already getting pretty deep into this episode.
We love a little foreshadowing.
A little foreshadowing. But Effie is gossiping, right? Like her and Cinna and Portia are there with Katniss. She's the only district person at the table, and Effie is talking about how many jewels she had out on and how gaudy it was that someone couldn't stop staring at them. Frankly, it was rude. Right? And now Effie is much happier now that Katniss has gotten this score of 11. Haymitch, she says, "Oh, Haymitch, you should join us. We're having your favorite." And just the complete opposite when she was pissed at him in the previous scene for not taking this seriously. Katniss's transgression seriously. And the Avoxes are standing in the background again here in the scene. Haymitch saunters over, and the first thing Katniss does is she looks around and she says, "Where's Peeta?" And Haymitch says, "He's in his room," like moves on quickly. "Now listen, tomorrow's last day, and they let us work with our own tributes right before the games, so you and I will be going down at 9. And Katniss is looking pretty upset. She's like, "Okay, but what about him? Where is he?" And we're getting shots of Effie and Cinna, and they're looking very uncomfortable, not wanting to participate in this conversation, so they also clearly know what's happening. And Haymitch is saying he wants to be trained on his own from now on. And oh my gosh, Jennifer Lawrence, great acting when she's like, "What?" Like, she's so confused. She's so hurt. She's so upset. And Haymitch responds, "This kind of thing does happen at this point. There's only one winner, right?" And you literally watch as Katniss swallows her emotions down, like physically does that. And yeah, it's just everything we were just talking about, where it's like, just a reminder, they're not a team. Just remember that. And it's a reminder to Katniss. It's a reminder to the viewer that only one is going to come out.
Yeah. And now the viewer, like, we've been establishing a little bit of especially in the movie, like, oh, like, Katniss doesn't really trust Peeta, but I like Peeta. Like, right. The viewer's starting to like Peeta. This is a decision we don't get to see on screen. And from here on out, we don't really get a lot of Peeta on his own talking about his own decisions. it's now back to being a mystery. We've gotten a little glimpse of the real Peeta, and now it's back to, wait, but why would he do that? Is he going to betray her? Is he a problem now? Is he going to stop her from, going back to Prim? It's now he's back to being a threat.
Yeah, is he doing this because Katniss got an 11 and he only got an 8, right?
Yeah.
So it's so important that it comes right after that discussion, then right after Snow being mad about her getting an 11, and then it's like, okay, wait, so is he also mad she got an 11, right? Like, because clearly it's like not a very common thing to happen. So
absolutely, and we're leading to the interview, which we'll talk about next week. Don't you worry. But but
no way we're gonna cover it here.
Peeta's gonna take a big swing. He's won very personal. He's gonna ham it up there and then take a huge swing, and we don't know the motivation of that. It could be anything. So we are back to not trusting Peeta and being very wary about Haymitch being very dodgy about this whole question. Like, are they planning something? Are they not? What's happening here?
And it's great because there's a moment of silence after Haymitch says this, right? And then Effie orders chocolate strawberries. She's again trying to break the tension. And she's like, who wants to try some chocolate strawberries? And Portia and Singer are like, oh, we do. We want to avoid this conversation, please.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And so it's a very capital, very Effie thing to do of like, again, what if we just distract from the emotions? And it's like, again, not going to work for Katniss.
I love that Effie can read the room, but is reading an entirely different book. Like she's never in the same book. She's on a different page in a different journey, but in the same room listening to the same conversation.
And also this moment really does. So chapter 8 ends on Haymitch saying that, and then chapter 9 opens with betrayal. Period. That's what I'm feeling. And she, in the book, she's talking about how, like, it's ludicrous that she's feeling this way. She's like, I can't believe. I literally have been talking about how I don't trust him, how I know he's out to kill me. Like, the whole time that we have been here, I say it constantly. I told him we're not allowed to be friends. We can only act like friends in public. I'm not actually his friend. No. Hard stop. I know you're going to kill me one day. But the boy who risked a beating to give me bread, the one who steadied me in the chariot, who covered for me with the red-headed Avox girl, who insisted Haymitch know my hunting skills, was there some part of me that couldn't help trusting him? And you're like, yeah, I know that sucks.
Bummer. Yeah, very, what is it that she says? I think this is much later in the books, or maybe it was earlier, where she's like, oh, just like kind people get under my skin and worm their way in. I'm like, oopsies.
Yeah, and she's thinking to herself, like, trust will only be a weakness. I don't know why I'm allowing myself to do this. But
and
it's like
you look at the situation, you're like, yeah, trust will only be a weakness.
Yeah. And it's like in the movies they are really getting us to this mindset because it is like we've been watching Katniss slowly start to feel closer organically to Peeta. Again, instead of everybody kind of manufacturing that for her. And so we've, like you said, we've been feeling closer to Peeta. We're like, oh, he's so sweet. He like paints. He made a little bark arm.
Yeah, he's so cute.
He fell and had to like throw a heavy object. So cute.
I was like, betrayal.
Betrayal.
Yeah, I mean it's nice. We've read the whole series and stuff, so like we know Peeta's a solid bloke. But yeah, in this moment you're like, oh no.
Yeah. So yeah, betrayal. We've had it happen. We'll talk about the interview prep and the actual interviews next time because we were maybe going to try and finish chapter 9 here, and this is just not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's going to be so much. I'm so excited. I have so much color theory to talk about.
Oh, I'm so excited. I've never really noticed color theory. Well, I'm sure I've noticed color theory, but never really discussed it. So very excited for that.
But yeah, so we got our first really big change with the Rose Garden scene, like a first really big glimpse into something entirely different. Like we've been getting these glimpses of the Capitol through the interview with Seneca and Caesar and just getting shots of the crowds, which is already a huge difference from what we get in the books. But this Rose Garden scene really does feel like the biggest departure in a way that like really recontextualizes some of the stuff we get in the book as well, in a good way. So
yeah, and it's kind of a sneaky little reminder that Suzanne Collins is, one of the was she producer or scriptwriter?
She ended up writing part of the script.
Okay, yeah. So like she's involved in, how much say she had, we don't really know, but the movie and the book are speaking together. They're enhancing each other.
Exactly. And that's what a good adaptation really should do, is it's not a 1-for-1. I don't think anything should be a 1-for-1, because what's the point? Like, I could just read it then if I wanted to, Give me something new. Give me something interesting. Give me something that completely changes my perspective on something in the book, like her getting the score of an 11. Because in the script, it is to put a target on her back. Seneca is much crueler. We don't get any of these Rose Garden scenes, and he basically is doing it as a, like, F you to Katniss.
Oh, yeah.
And I just don't think it works as well, right? Again, because they end up selling Seneca now in the film as a kid who grew up believing all the propaganda. And it makes sense. He's young enough. Why wouldn't he? Snow did his job very well. Too well, almost.
Oopsies.
Yeah. So super fun to get to talk about. Really excited. I think we might do the Donald Sutherland special episode sooner, like maybe here at the end of part 1, just so we have the context for the rest of the Rose Garden scenes. I'm excited to read you the letter.
Oh, so excited.
Yeah. And even though we're cutting out a lot of sections here in the book, it's just that they're building the relationships differently in the films, and those relationships are solid. Like, if they were changing all of this stuff and those relationships weren't working, it might be a different story. But they're working pretty well.
Yeah, they're in sync, in synchronous. They're synchronized together.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
But yeah, and our podcast is specifically looking at movie to book, how that's translating. So some scenes we might not talk about too much, or might drop because they have no direct translation or anything into the movies.
Yeah. And I brought up the most important things, which is the dandelion scene, like the dandelion comparison. Who cares about anything else? That's the only thing that matters, right?
If someone's being compared to a flower, pay attention.
It's true, because, again,
it's very true.
We've talked about Katniss and names, and her family are all plants. Rue is a plant. And then what does she think of as Peeta? A plant. It's important. So, just something to keep in mind. But join us next week as we wrap up part 1 officially. I know we keep saying it, but we're gonna do it, and
we're gonna do it.
We're gonna basically just talk about the interview. We're so excited. It's such an awesome scene, and I cannot wait. Stanley Tucci is amazing, so I'm so excited.
Get the trumpets out. It's time to celebrate.
Yeah, buddy. And we're gonna get the crush reveal. So very exciting times. And I forgot how I was going to end this, so I guess we'll just end it here.
Sometimes it just ends.
Sometimes it just ends. We will see you all next week.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.
Do. Woo. Woo. One day people will see our dance moves when we finish an episode.
One day.